Thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor who's going to be talking about loss of life. I suppose might pronounce their name management, might be MGMT, I don't know. This is literally the first time I've ever intentionally listened to MGMT. It might even be the first time I've ever even heard them. A couple people have told me, I'm sure you've heard their biggest hits. And I played it, it's called Kids. I sort of recognized it from somewhere, maybe. So that's probably what my title is going to be. It's probably going to be, first time listening to MGMT. I have a couple other titles kind of kicking around in the back of my head. I thought that I had when listening to this album, I think for the third or fourth time, well, this is sweet. That was one comment. And then the other one, which sort of popped up a bunch, was, is this bad? So let's talk about both those potential alternate titles. First of all, I just got through giving a lesson to my daughter about the great acronym bands of the 90s. So first I played EMF, oh, you're unbelievable. And then I played KLF, and then I played her KMFDM. I don't know why. I ended up talking about that. Then this album randomly came out. And, part of the reason I do this channel is, I suffered through what you might be about to suffer. Or maybe you're in the throes of it. Mid-20s music death. You reach a certain point in your life and you decide that new music is trash. And so when these folks came out, I just missed it completely. I'd already started my family, or I'd already graduated college. I was holding on to Radiohead as being the only good band that could possibly exist. And thus I became the Rip Van Winkle and the Robert Van Winkle of music criticism, okay? To the point where, I didn't know, when I saw they were coming out with an album, I was excited. Because that's part of why I do this channel. Part of it is to experience new music, right? And to be hip with the kids and to understand what the kids are up to, because the kids are always making the best music. It doesn't matter what time we live in, the kids are always making the best music, right? That's just how it is. And also part of it was just to share my knowledge and my wisdom and all that stuff, and talk about Simone de Beauvoir when I feel like it, and talk about Yasujiro Ozu if I feel like it, right? And then the other part is to just help me catch up. What did I miss when I was asleep? And there's this whole pantheon of rockers that I just completely missed. I still, to this moment, don't know the difference between The Darkness and the Killers. I think one of them is ironic and then the other one isn't. But truly, if you put a gun to Toby's head and said, hey, that's my dog, by the way. He's sitting right there. He's chilling. He's sleeping. And you said, hey, you got to save this dog. Is this the Killers or the Darkness? I would have no idea. Much like the Killers and the Darkness, I just assumed that with a name like MGMT, I was thinking like KMFDM. I was thinking they might be some kind of super hard band. So, what did I get? Well, not that. just for fun, This channel is so cool because I can now answer what I think this band is just based on this one album. And that might be off. And feel free to use the comment section to fill it up and tell me why their old stuff was better or why this is not representative. Let's think of some of the bands that I listened to for the first time on this channel. Of Montreal, The National, the 1975, the Arctic Monkeys, the Paramore, okay? All of these bands I've had the pleasure of only experiencing from 2018 on. So I think that gives me an interesting perspective, and I hope a valuable one, because I have a very open mind. I have a very sort of kind disposition towards artists, because I think too much time is spent trying to bring artists down, and they're just trying to make our lives better. I guess they're trying to make Skrilla, but they're also really just trying to make our lives better, right? They're not salespeople, right? They're trying to make something great. So by being an outsider to their music, maybe you'll appreciate this album more. Maybe if you've been a long-time fan and you think, this isn't as good because they used to use kazoos on all their albums, or all their stuff was electronic before, or they didn't use as many acoustic guitars, or they weren't always this soft, or they really did sound like the Killers. I don't know. So please tell me in the comments how they were better before. So I did do an initial listen. I don't do reactions on this channel. I do watch them, but it's sort of a guilty pleasure. I prefer analysis and criticism if possible. Criticism and analysis if possible. But I did a reaction on my Patreon just so that people would see what I felt and what I thought listening. And what you will see is I was really surprised. I'm like, oh, are these guys British? I hear some like British accents. Oh my God, they are soft. Like, I thought they'd be, and I don't mean that as an insult. I mean, they're just like a soft band, a soft rock band. If they remind me of anything that I've listened to over the past couple of years, and this is guaranteed to annoy a lot of people, it reminded me the most spiritually, not so much auditorily, but reminded me the most of the 1975 in terms of this kind of lane that they're picking, which is like rock, but not like rockin'. They also reminded me strongly of a band from the 90s that I don't know if they're any good. They were called Soul Asylum. And again, it's not so much that they sound like them. It's more this kind of lane of like kind of soft rock that's not soft rock, but isn't rock either. Kind of in between those two things. And I'm now wondering, hey, maybe Soul Asylum was a good band after all. I don't know. I didn't like that one song, you know, run away, never come back. But maybe it was just overplayed. It turns out that these two artists met at Wesleyan, which is, if you're an East Coast guy like I am, that's kind of funny. You know, I went to a small liberal arts college in Massachusetts as well, not Wesleyan. I couldn't get into Wesleyan. I only got into the school I got into because my grandmother went there. That's a hard thing to admit, but an important thing to recognize when privileges exist. It's funny because it makes them sort of like a college rock band, but not at all the kind of college rock band that you think of. You know, this isn't like, I don't know, Hum. Okay, it's not like a college rock band with a bunch of dudes getting around, throwing beer bottles at each other and getting excited. The fact that it's two guys, and in that way, I think I really connect to this band in a sort of deep way. Even if I don't always connect with their music, as you'll see, some of this music I think is bad. Sorry, some of it I just don't like, but most of it I do. We'll get to there soon. But like, I feel the dorm room energy from this music. Like two friends sitting around being like I think of my friend Blair, you know, who I learned a lot about music with. You know, we would just sit around and listen to the Beach Boys all the time. And like, he introduced me to them, and we just listened to it, we just have these conversations. Well, what if I was a better musician, and what if he was a musician? What if that kind of idealistic, ambitious energy of being a kid who's lucky enough to be at a very good college, surrounded by friends, in a dorm room, what if you could like turn that into a band? I don't think there's actually a lot of bands like that out there. So I'm sort of connected to them in that way, where like, had things gone differently, had I had more talent, this is true. I did spend one afternoon with my friend Lorenzo, who was a better musician than I was. He was in a punk band, Dr. Frog. They were pretty fun. I played bass for them once. I played Where Eagles Dare at Tufts University. Just one song. We did think about starting a Black Sabbath Run DMC cover band where I had like a drum machine and he played guitar. But that's as far as I got in terms of dorm room bands. So what is this album? How do I feel about it? It seems like okay, this is my general take on the album. It is has a great intro, very ambitious, interesting opening song. And then back to back stinkers. I mean, songs that like, if I didn't trust you, my viewers, so much, if I didn't know that for some reason, literally thousands of people care what I think about a band, it's weird to say, it sounds megalomaniacal, but it's true, you care, right? The songs 2, 3, and 4, I just do not like at all. But then, there's just 2 songs back to back, which are just awesome songs. And then the rest of the album, very strong. That vacillate between good and great. So that's kind of the way that I'm approaching this album. I'm surprised by how much acoustic guitar there is. So on this channel, I talk a lot about the death of rock and roll and the death of guitar music, because it's a real thing. But hey, this has got so much acoustic guitar. There seems to be this is the most acoustic guitar you can have in an album and still call it rock. Because if there's just one more note of acoustic guitar, I'm sorry, you're folk. You got folked. You're just folked. I'm surprised at how sweet it is, just how sweet the singing is. Very often it's quite Beach Boys-esque, and not so much they're trying to sound like Beach Boys, although sometimes I think they are, but I think the inspiration really comes through with the clarity and the sweetness of the voice and certain production choices, certain harmonies. And that's the final thing is the production. There's a fair amount of non-rock instrumentation, violins, horns, whatever, that are used quite sparingly, and I find that quite nice. And now that I'm thinking about it, the thing that appears to be connecting all these bands that I don't know is just that they're millennial bands, and I'm not a millennial. I'm Generation X, and I study Zoomer music, right? Like I mainly study Generation Z. So there really is this whole kind of swath of music that just came right after me, that's basically scientifically created to be in my blind spot. So let's jump into the drive spot. I don't edit my video. If this is your first time viewing me, because you're a big MGMT fan. Love the name, by the way. I love that. How many signs have you seen that say, sorry, MGMT? How many times have you seen the word management misspelled? And you're like, but you're the management. Like, you're getting paid an extra $2 an hour, and you don't know how to spell it? If you like this video, you can put anywhere in the comments, AVAA, and I will give you a heart on that. That means awesome video as always. Smash the like bucket like you like to do if you like this video. If you don't like this video, smash the dislike button. That's also cool. If you really love that Christine and the Queen song, get ready to hate me, because I am gonna just all over that song. Oof, if I never have to hear that again. Okay, now before I go any further, one of my Patreons, Trevor Habig, I don't know how to pronounce his name, sort of said his thoughts. And I'm just going to use him as an example, the voice of the fans. So if you could just jump in and say anything to me right before somebody who for some reason you care what I think about this band, this is what he says. I really think this album is special. It has made me cry a lot in the last few days. MGMT have been in my life since their first album dropped, so yes, I'm sure there's bias here, but also the lyrics across the whole album honestly speak to me in this part of my life, now having spent a decent amount of time thinking, right? Side note, I love how much acoustic guitar is used on this album in comparison to their last ones. It is a side of their music I think is underutilized up until now, okay? Because it's always brought out so much feeling. So, he also gives me a couple of good tracks to listen to contextualize their past issues of acoustic guitar. I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to assume that Trevor there, I don't know, never met him, don't know his name, don't even know his pronouns, so I might be using the wrong pronouns there, says how this connects to him into his part of life. And I definitely get that from the sense of this album. These guys are maybe, 10 years, 11 years younger than me, something like that. No, they can't be that much younger than me. 5, 6 years younger than me. And so they're sort of hitting that point of time. It feels like they just had kids. It felt like they might have had some parents die, or maybe some uncles or grandparents die. There's sort of a meditative edge to this, a sort of what is life. I think that's the point of the opening track being called Loss of Life. So this is the great opening, Loss of Life Part 2. I didn't get it. I thought it was pretentious and annoying that they had the track called Loss of Life Part 2 to be the first track. Fortunately, I do get it. But you're going to have to wait till the end of the video when I talk about Loss of Life Part 1 to tell you why Loss of Life Part 2 had to be at the beginning. This is the same melody that will come back later, very kind of Beach Boys-y style melody, nice quiet tones on the synth, and then this voice just like talking with all these weird computery melodies. Apparently, this is the 6th century Welsh poem called the Taliesin. I don't know. Let me tell you what I find most interesting about the Taliesin poetry. I looked up on Wikipedia an hour ago. I'm an expert on a lot of stuff that has to do with literature, okay? 6th century Welsh poetry is not in my wheelhouse, okay? So don't, however well you think Michael Jordan can play, let's see, however well Michael Jordan can do at go-karting, you should think that's how good I am at discussing this. So I have the general tools of someone who can compete, right? But I don't necessarily know everything about what I'm talking about here. Michael Jordan's a bad example because he's so competitive, he gets good at everything. And I take that personally. So what I find the most interesting about this poem and the way that it's used is when you look it up and you find out about this poem, a lot of what is attributed to the poem was written later in the style of the poem, which makes this poem, which itself is sort of very self-aggrandizing, but also very mysterious, like why milk is white and why ale is bitter. It has this sort of larger than life scope of these weird, like the weird sense of someone trying to figure out what is what and what is my place in the world. And because the Taliesin was not finished for 6 centuries, because a lot of what we consider to be the Taliesin came 6 centuries later, what does that mean? That means you can write the next verse of the Taliesin, should you wish. I don't even think you need to learn Old Welsh, which means I think we can assume that this whole album is supposed to be the next chapter of the Taliesin. That's the way I like to think about it. Then we get to the first, what I think is not a particularly great track, Mother Nature. I mean, the opening lyrics are interesting. You know, I put the groceries down on the front lawn and maybe the children just want recognition. That's kind of nice, you know, like it's an interesting image of children wanting your attention. I certainly know that when I'm sitting on the couch, looking up the Taliesin, writing up my notes, and my baby's next to me going, nah, 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 and like picking up her book and throwing it on my computer to get me to pay attention to her and not to MGMT. I guess, you know, I wrote like 3 times, different times listening to this album. Doesn't quite develop, doesn't really develop. Like you want proof? You want proof? These are my notes right here. I don't have a script, I have notes. doesn't quite develop, doesn't really develop, doesn't quite go anywhere. There's like some harmonica there. It's like almost a guitar solo. I don't know. It's fine. I mean, when the band describes it themselves, they say that it's about the hero journey and one person trying to go on an adventure that the other person doesn't want to go on, which in that way, if I was more into the band, like if I knew the names of the guys in this band, is Ben the name of one of them? Probably. Anyways, I know they have like ridiculously multisyllabic last names. These 2 guys, red guy, blue guy, let's just call them that. That red guy wants to go and blue guy wants to stay home. So if I had a real investment into red guy and blue guy, I think blue guy's last name is like Bendwasser or something like that, then that's very cool because I would get that sense of like, oh, he's trying to get him to go back out again. Oh, those little scamps, are they going to make a great album? And then we get to Dancing in Babylon. Christine and the Queens. I don't know. I don't know them. I don't dislike them. I don't like them. It's a name I've heard. I just don't like this song. I mean, the voice is frail, and the third listen, I liked it more than the first one. But I don't know. It sort of reminds me unfavorably of Stop Dragging My Heart Around, the duet between Grace Slick and Tom Petty. Not Grace Slick. What's her name? Yeah. Stop Dragging. Yeah, I think it was... No, not Grace Slick. Who was that? Not Lindsey Buckingham. Who's the one from Fleetwood Mac? Point is, oh boy. Now my brother watches my videos sometimes. You'll see him in the comments, so he'll correct me. It's just not a good... Stevie Nicks, thank you. Thank you, Ward. He helped me out there. Talk about confusing. Stevie Nicks, Grace Slick, the names are too similar. I don't know. I don't mind the ending, how extra and sincere it is. Everyone, I want you to know that I love you. But it just really doesn't hit for me. And then the next song, People in the Streets, just the title is like, dear God, don't let this be a song where you're talking about normal people. As I said in my reaction video, Paul McCartney got away with it on Eleanor Rigby because the song was so good. But a song about like, wow, look at all the normal people out there, you know? Like, what do they think? You just go back to your rock star bed and just chill out. Just shut your rock star mouth. But to be fair, that's not really what the song is about. It's a little bit about that. I don't really like the fretless bass in the beginning. I don't really like the snapping sounds. I do like the enjambment of the lyrics. That's kind of nice. I like the acoustic guitar still. I like the solid drumming, okay? You won't learn from the people in the streets. I don't know. Also, like, I'm a big fan of Scott Aukerman and Comedy Bang Bang, and I feel like there's some song that he always quotes. It's like, people in the streets. Oh, is it, Under pressure? People on the street? Yeah, it's people on the streets. Is there a keytar on here? I don't know. It's these like songs that I don't like so much also have all these sort of like cliches in them. They're marching to the beat of a different drum. I think on an earlier song there was like lights on and no one's home. Going over their seats with a magnifier, the people in the streets aren't singing along because they're probably sick and they're probably tired. As the kids these days say, woof, which I think means it's not good, but I don't know. It might not mean that. Fortunately, we're through with the bad part of the album, okay? So we're done. We are smooth sailing. We made it through Stinkerville, and we're now into Banger City. Okay. Bubblegum Dog. This rules. This song is great. Hey, tell me, MGMT fans, if I like MGMT because they are a great glam band, what other music can I listen to where they're making great glam music? Great sort of howling. So when I go to the gym, I watch movies on mute while I do my videos. ADD is a thing, okay? So that's what I do. And I was watching a very underrated movie, American Werewolf in Paris? With Julie Delpy? Interesting. I hadn't seen it before. So anyways, I had werewolves on the brain. There's kind of like a little wolf sound in the background. But what makes this glam is feels like T-Rex. It has these great semi-nonsense lyrics, a great kind of glaze on everything, great dynamics with the acoustic guitar and then later the electric guitar. And has this sort of anthemic feel. Bubblegum Dog, tell me what the truth is. What does that mean? I don't know. You can't stop the children of the revolution. It just really feels great. It's just a great, great, awesome song. And then the chorus gets full kind of David Bowie, but actually pre-glam Bowie. Like the worst era of David Bowie, which of course is the late 60s. I will take late 80s and early 90s Bowie over late 60s every day. Every day. It's still great music. Anyways. Kind of this harpsichord sound, sort of a 60s kind of harpsichord thing. There's these great sort of like imperious little moments, this great dynamism, and I just love it. I just love these lyrics. I felt hate towards the earthly world, but hate is a very strong word and it's finally catching up with me. Let me tell you a funny story about my mom. So I used to be obsessed with swears, and she didn't really care if I swore. I mean, she didn't like it. But she wouldn't ever let me say hate. Like never, 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 never. I couldn't ever say the word hate because it was too strong of a word. One time I asked her, what's the worst swear? Because I thought it would be, because my brother Bart used to say fucking A all the time. So I actually asked him, is fucking B, is that a better swear? So I loved it. So I was asking my mom, I was driving to Belmont Center right by the old Filene's. If you know Belmont, Massachusetts, you're right there with me. We're turning left and we're pulling into the parking lot that used to be there, but now it was a ridiculously too big fire station because no one ever votes against the fire department. Nobody ever votes against the fire department. They vote against the school system, but they don't vote against the fire department. Anyways, at the time we pull into park and I say, what's the worst swear? And she says, well, sins are worse than swears. And I got all excited. I said, awesome. What's the worst sin? She said, murder. I was like, no, come on. Anyways, hate's a very strong word. And I love that he's saying that. I love that he's singing that. And it's finally catching up with me. The years of plodding on in fear of the bubblegum dog. It's finally catching up to me. I don't know what the bubblegum dog is, but this speaks to the larger themes of the album of interconnection with sort of earthliness and meditations on death and life and transcendence. They all kind of go together. Okay? And then there's a full guitar solo, actual guitar solo, even sort of Queen-style sounds in the back, and just like, I love these, it's just a great song. And then the next song's a great song, Nothing to Declare. It seems like double acoustic guitars, kind of folky, some kind of Baroque harpsichord, a kind of electronic harpsichord here, and just these lyrics, nothing to declare, not in the bags under my eyes. Question. Is this lyric cheesy as hell? Affirmative. Second question. Is this lyric awesome? Also affirmative. I guess because I generally have bags under my eyes. I can't really tell. Can you tell? Boy, I look all like shiny. Whoa, whoa. Anyways, I often have bags under my eyes. It is a weird indicator. If you're the kind of person who has bags under your eyes, often people will look at you and be like, oh, Are you okay? It's like, yeah, it's just the way my face looks, you know? But just the sentence it's a beautiful, and it develops really nicely, this nice kind of thumping drums, little almost George Harrison style guitar at a certain point. It's sort of gauzy and a nice shuffle. It's just a really nice song with an interesting lyric that's memorable, and it's great. And then we get to another song, which is not one of the best songs on the back half, but again, nowhere near the lows of 2, 3, and 4. I'm sorry, Christine and the Queen fans. Maybe they're great too. Hopefully they'll come out with an album and I'll review it. Because I don't know the difference between them and Florence and the Machine. I don't. There's Christine and the Queens, Florence and the Machine. They rhyme, woman, and something that rhymes with "een." I don't know. It's real. And before you start laughing at me, if you did the same thing that I did, if when you turned 41, you decided to start a music channel, you'd be blown away by the things that you think you should know, but you don't. This song, okay, so if you ever have a guitar, you can tune it to be open tuning. And when you tune it to open tuning, it changes the way you write, because open tuning means when you play the strings just with nothing on them, it sounds like a chord. So the most common one is G. I think this might be in G tuning. So like instead of being like, it plays like, it plays like a nice little chord. And it ends up becoming that when you write in G tuning, it often leads to greater sense of resolution, because you always have resolution right there. So this feels to me like it might be a 12-string guitar, maybe not, but definitely feels like it's in open tuning and just really, really, really just super resolving. But then they do a cool thing with these little lead lines that are slightly discordant, so that take you off that resolution. Maybe they were cognizant of the fact that they didn't want it to sound like... I can't even think of a song that is overly resolute. Overly resolved? Just very kind of, it has a nice change there, these kind of faraway grinder sounds, like a Herb Alpert bridge with this little tiny electronic trumpet solo. And then it has a really unexpected full kind of glam outro with some la 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 la's. And then another great song, probably the second best track on the album, Frady's song. This one's co-produced by One-O Tricks Point Never. One-O Tricks Point Never, whatever the hell his name is, Daniel LaPointe? Never? Daniel La something or other. This is just great. This nice kind of whistling and bike bells in the back over this acoustic guitar. There's this sort of like really neat sounds all over the place, very gentle, great themes and feeling. It feels to me as though it's a song to his daughter. I don't know, but I assume that he named his daughter Euphrates after the river. Cradle of life, right? And that's the nickname for Euphrates is Frady, but I don't know. It feels, this is where I said, well, this is sweet. It's sweet. This album's very, very sweet. Despite the fact it's called Loss of Life, it's very sweet. And it ends with sort of a nice tinkling, faraway sound. Next track is called I Wish I Was Joking, which is improper. Improper grammar, therefore it's a bad song. I wish I were joking. Listen, English speakers, we don't ever get to use the subjunctive, okay? Over in the French, they use it a lot. Spaniards, my Hispanophone people out there, ojalá que hueve el café en el campo. You have to use subjunctive all the time. So come on. I wish I were joking. You went to Wesleyan. You know how bad that looks on you when you have to, when you've already explained 3 times? No, Wellesley is the all-girls school. It's the all-female school. We're different. We're near Wellesley, but we're not. Well, anyways, that's a good song. I'm joking. Voices all flanged, and the choruses, weird sounds in the back, and then some of the best lyrics. Half of love is still love. The back half of this album sort of touches on these themes, which I actually, come to think of it, one of my best friends is a millennial. He's my co-host on my podcast and a Patreon, Steve. He might be an MGMT fan. If he is, what's up? I was his officiator for his wedding. And when I wrote the sort of sermon, the sermon that I wrote was on this concept that matter can never be created or destroyed. But the exception of that is love, because like love, you know, like when you have a baby, it's not like that love is divided. It's like it's multiplied. It's something actually created. And that's what like love is, that love is like an explosion. It's like it goes against the laws of physics. Jeez, I'm getting far out there. But like when you are one with somebody, you are one and you are two and you are something different and you are more than just the molecules that are inside you. I feel like that's the direction that they're going in, and I'm totally there for it. In the dump, you'll find love. Another great lyric. It's true. Love is everywhere. I love the synths at the end of the chorus. I like how they're not fully rhyming. And then they go on this weird sort of like consumerist rant about $6 coffee and getting parking at Disney Live. And I wish I was joking. And then out of nowhere, there's an anti-drug verse. So, hey, you know I'm psyched. You know my general anti-drug policy. You know, not because I think people who do drugs are bad. It's that I think it's a disappointing life choice because it just makes you boring. You know what I mean? It's fine. You know, it's like it's just boring. It's just boring. You're just buying stuff. You're consuming stuff to make things more interesting when life itself is filled with sunsets and dogs named Toby. You know, and music like this. So I love these lyrics about doing drugs and. Like doing drugs and leads you to kiss the sky under your bed, and it just talks about the losses that you have. And I really enjoy that because I think that's part of the idea. That's part of the issue that for me, that a lot of times people talk about drugs as this spiritual thing, but fundamentally at the end of every single drug path is a sort of spiritual emptiness. And that's what this gets to. And maybe if you're watching this, you're in the beginning of your drug path or the middle of your drug path, in which case that's fine. I'm sure it won't happen to you. You might be the one person out of 10 billion to not end in that sort of spiritual emptiness. But I like this because it implies going to that spiritual emptiness and then overcoming it. Because love is the drug, right? That's the actual thing you want. That's the drug that doesn't kill you. That's the drug, true love, wonderful love that fulfills you. It's also funny because I was watching that American Werewolf in Paris, and I was at the scene where the character was being told by Julie Delpy what was going on, that he was turning into a werewolf, and she said, "I wish I were joking." So there you go. It was a weird sort of random kismet right there. And then there's like all these laughs at the end, and a weird hippie friend of my brother once gave me a CD that was just all laugh tracks. And it was awesome. It's really... Try listening to 45 minutes of people laughing. You'll just end up laughing. The final track is called Loss of Life, also produced by 101 Point Tricks, Never the Never Never. This sort of reminded me of They Might Be Giants in the beginning. Just the nature of the melody, it's kind of like washing synths and then some cool, super compressed, like Atari 2600 sounds. Okay. I'm going to say something which makes me want to punch myself because I'm enough of a fan of MGMT now, just through this one listen, that this is super obnoxious. But I think this song, if you took Surf's Up by the Beach Boys, okay, one of the most beautiful songs ever written. I think this has a Beach Boys style melody and feeling that reminds me of that. And then married it to the #1 smash hit off of the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves soundtrack by Bryan Adams, Everything I Do It For You. I promise you, make a playlist, put this, Loss of Life Part 1, Surf's Up, Everything I Do It For You. You'll see what I'm saying. You'll hate me for it. I hate me for it, but you just will. But these are great lyrics. Unlike... Surf's Up has great lyrics, but they're just super Van Dyke Parks, just far out there stuff. At the table, undressing the cosmic knots, what remain of the disconnected dots, who knows what the painting will look like in the morning when the day is born and life is ending. But it's neither created nor destroyed. There's a way to quiet all the noise, neither created or destroyed. That's the feeling that we have here. This is the question of life, that you're never prepared for the loss of life. And this beautiful, it's almost like a lullaby melody, there's little woodwinds, it sounds like some horns, again, more kind of imperious horns. How do you learn to have this sort of loss of life? And this is how it works, because when you listen to the album, as most people do on streaming, as most people do with replay, so you don't have that stupid thing where it just does, the algorithm thinks you'll want to listen to this now. If you have it on repeat, then it starts with Loss of Life Part 2. And having that similar melody, having it end and begin in the same way, implies a certain amount of neither beginning nor ending, right? The same way that nothing can be created or ended. That existence is eternal. Our matter is eternal. Our life is not. So I think they're sort of getting at that general sense. And our love is eternal. It is, I think. I think the love that I have for my wife, for Toby, I think that will last beyond the life of Toby. Okay, now Toby's one of the rare dogs who will never die. Same with Bo. I don't know how it happened. I got lucky. They're going to live 100 years past my life. But there will become a certain time where they will no longer be on planet Earth, and I probably will be. And that love is eternal, even if their life isn't. So a loss of life, but it can't be created or destroyed. So there's my review. There's my introduction to MGMT. I got a lot of Patreons who just wanted to see me react to them for the first time. So I'm going to give them a special shout out. Okay? We're talking Moritz Lutz, Keaton Hardwick, Oreo Speedwagon. Hey, good name. Uncle Trill, another good name. Hayden. There's a Canadian folk rock band called Hayden. Girl of my dreams. Ooh, that's an underage love song. Things are as bad as they seem. You are only 16. Yeesh. Man, that's a great song, though. Check it out if you've never heard it. Sketchy, though. Christian Lorenzana, Braden Curry, Zach, other Patreons wanted a shout out here. AJ, Algorithm, another great name. Igor Nadinenko, Ethan, Jorge, Ethan George. These are my other Patreons. They give me money so that I could do goofy, fun stuff. So I can hopefully buy a new microphone, because I know the microphone situation is not great. I know I sound quiet. I know you listen to someone else and they're all like loud and clear and confident. And then you hear me and I'm like, shur, 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 shur. Blades of Steel, double dibble. Okay, but these are my Patreons. I keep forgetting to put Vukievich on the big boy page over here, on the big girl, the big NB page over here, the big everyone page. But that's all right, because I at least say their name at the end of every single thing. Okay, and I think they mainly watch my Kanye content, but I don't know. Maybe they're watching this too. In which case, what's up, Wook? Okay, there we go. So. How you feeling, Toby? Is our love forever? I think it is. Our love is forever, Toby. All right. Till next time. There's the camera.